Hi, Paul here from Trekitt, and today, as you can see, we're upstairs in the Hereford shop in our tent showroom, and we've come today to talk to you about the Fjällräven Abisko 2 dome tent. So just a little note before we make a start, you might hear some funny noises or see some people wandering about, and that's because we are actually in the shop and it is full of people and customers. So we're going to try and crack on and get this done without too much interruption. So like I said, the Abisko Dome 2 tent, what is it? Well, it's a two-person tent. It's got loads of room. It's really strong, really stable. It's a proper four-season tent that's designed to be a real workhorse of a tent. If you use a tent regularly in rough conditions, in windy conditions, in wet conditions, all year round, this would be a really good tent for you to consider. Okay, it's probably not the lightest two-man tent on the market, but it's certainly one of the strongest, certainly one of the most reliable, and certainly one of the highest quality tents. So if weight is not your main consideration, this would be a really good tent. It gives you oodles of space. It's packed with features to make kind of long-term livability really comfortable. Is that a word, livability? But anyway, you know what I mean. It's really comfortable. If you're living in the tent for long periods of time, it would make a superb kind of base camp tent. Plonk your tent up, walk to and from it on multi-days. Maybe if you're doing some kayaking, some sea kayaking trips, be perfect for that. Out the back of the car camping, or even for two people, wild camping up in the mountains, you split the tent, split the weight between you. It would give you a really roomy, stable and dependable fortress against the conditions all year round. Okay, so let's have a look at what this beautiful tent is made from. As you'd expect from Fjällräven, they're using the finest fabrics and materials that are designed to last many, many years of, fairly constant use. So let's start with the fly sheet, the bit that you can see, the green bit on the outside here. This is made from an innovative, easy for me to say, fabric called triple rip nylon. As you would imagine from the name, it's a triple ripstop fabric that cleverly combines a 20 denier rip on the outside with a 40 denier on the inside. So it's heavier on the inside because that's where most of the abrasion takes place, from the inner tent, from the poles, etc. And that construction combines lightweight with superb durability. The fabric itself has a 3000mm hydrostatic head, which means it is waterproof. And it uses a fluorocarbon-free DWR, that's a durable water repellency. So the tent comes treated with this fluorocarbon-free DWR, so the water will roll and bead up and roll off this during wet weather. After prolonged use, or even after washing, that DWR will diminish, but you can top that up with various products. Grangers, Nickpacks, etc. do all kinds of tent reproofers that you can top that DWR with. So the fly sheet, lightweight, very strong, high tensile rip strength, and you've got that extra durable layer on the inside just to make sure that it's going to last for many years. So moving on to the inner tent, the beigey colour bit you can see here, this is a 15D lightweight nylon, 100% polyamide. Again, this has got a fluorocarbon free DWR, so if you get condensation on the inside of the tent, it's going to roll up off that inner tent and less likely to soak through. And then also in here you've got 15D no-seer mesh panels through on the door and up on the sides of the tent here, and that aids with ventilation. You can basically, the door is made up of the 20D nylon and the 15D mesh, so you can either have a solid door or just have the mesh open, which means that you can get lots of ventilation, or you can sit in the tent at night with just the mesh door there. You can still get a good view out, but you're not going to get bothered by any nasty flying insects. I think I'm correct in saying here that a no-see is like a tiny little biting flying insect, mainly found in North America, and they're smaller than mosquitoes. So this mesh is designed to keep out the smallest of those nasty flying critters. And then right down at the bottom of the tent, the ground sheet, the tub, the floor, whatever you want to call it, the heavy duty bit right down the bottom here. This is a 40 denier nylon with a 6000mm hydrostatic head. So a really tough, durable, completely waterproof bathtub construction. You can see that the ground sheet comes up the inner tent slightly to stop from wet if it gets driven under the fly by the rain, or if you're in particularly boggy, marshy ground, just gives you that extra reassurance and protection that you're going to stay nice and dry inside the tent. Moving on to the structure of the tent, the bit that gives it stability and strength, Fjällräven have chosen to use DAC Featherlight NSL 9.6mm poles. So DAC are a company that make the aluminium and other materials for poles and extrude the poles themselves. They are probably the world's best tent pole manufacturer. I think, as Mr. Clarkson would say, they're the best poles in the world. And yeah, they are. They're very good. They're used by most of the major tent manufacturers, where quality, strength and reliability are the main criteria. So good, really good, strong poles. And whilst we're talking about poles, it's also worth mentioning that this pole can be reconfigured with a dual pole set to give it increased strength in really extreme conditions. But I'll talk about that a little bit more when we go through the features. So pitching this thing is really, really simple. You've got 3 poles of equal length, and they slide into these pole sleeves from one side of the tent only and into a captivated foot the other end. And because of the way that the tent is constructed, it's freestanding. Now, it basically means you could, if the weather is really, really good, or perhaps you're on a particularly rocky area and you just can't get any pegs in, you could pitch this without the use of any pegs or any guy lines. The other advantage of a freestanding tent is that once you've got it upright like this, you can literally pick it up and you can move it around, find the perfect pitch site without having to strike and repitch the tent all the time. So it makes it a good stable structure as well, gives it shape, gives it form, and makes it super easy to pitch. So like I said, you basically feed the poles in from one end of the sleeve, the open end of the sleeve obviously, through over the top here. And then to keep things simple, the poles cross over at the top here, so obviously they can't be in a sleeve, so that each end of the corresponding sleeve is colour coded to make sure that the pole follows through into the right sleeve. We'll do a close-up of that and show you how that all works. But super easy to pitch. It comes from Fjällräven with the inner tent attached, so it all goes up as one. Obviously you can split the inner out if you need to, split it between people for carrying, sharing the load, if you need to dry the tent, or indeed if you just want to use the inner tent as a bug shelter in the summer, but we'll talk about that a bit later. So pitching, super easy, super quick. I hadn't pitched one of these before we started the filming. I put this up, probably took me about 5 minutes max, and I think with practice you could get it down a lot quicker than that, and that was just on my own. So yeah, nice and easy, straightforward, can't really go wrong, nice, easy to pitch. Okay, so let's rattle through the features of the Abisko Dome 2. It's a fully featured tent. Again, like I said, it's not been stripped down to be super lightweight. This thing is built to last, it's high quality, so you do get a lot of really useful features that make your time in the tent much more comfortable. So starting off with the guy lines, you get fully reflective guy lines with these mini cam adjusters on, and there are 6 guy lines, so there's a guy line attached to the lower half of each pole here, so you're pegging out the poles themselves to give the tent superb stability. Always recommend fully guying the tent in really windy conditions. You'll notice here as well this little bit over the top. This is a shelter that is covering the mesh ventilation on the top of the tent here. So obviously in winter conditions, rainy conditions, you would have this sort of canopy over the top. But that's easily removed with these little toggles here. Take the whole thing off, and that exposes the 2 vents on the fly sheet, which correspond through to the inner tent to give you maximum ventilation. We'll do close-ups of all this so you can see how that all works. On either side of the tent, this end and this end here, you've got 2 large vents, again to keep that airflow going through the tent, and it's advisable to pitch the tent with the vents in line with the wind. So in this case, we'd expect the wind to be going in this direction, so you get good airflow through, over the inner tent and out the other side. Those can be guyed out separately to ensure they stay open, and they correspond with the inner tent where there is a zipped panel which has either got a solid or a mesh kind of cover on it. So you can, in cold conditions, you can use the solid cover, close everything up. hot conditions, use the mesh, open everything up. So inside the tent here, at either end of the tent, you've got these ventilation panels, and as you can see at the moment they are fully zipped up, fully closed, but you can open that up and have just mesh on there to keep the insects out, or for maximum ventilation you can open the whole thing up, and that corresponds with that vent on the outside of the tent. And again, you've got a zipped panel on that as well, which works to expose the mesh on the outside. So you've got loads of options for ventilation. You've got kind of maximum ventilation like that, mesh on the outside, fully open on the inside. You can have mesh and mesh, or you can have fully closed outside, fully closed inside for maximum insulation. The versatility around this tent is incredible. All these little attentions to detail really make it quite a special thing. Keeping the airflow going through the tent is absolutely essential to reducing condensation. You know, you will get condensation in a tent. It's physics, it's what happens. We all exhale a load of warm, damp air. So it's really, really important to keep that airflow moving through the tent. And the Abisko Dome 2 gives you plenty of ventilation options. Okay, moving on. The real big feature, I suppose, of the tent is its space and its size. You know, it's a big tent. You know, I'm 6'3". This thing's right up here. You've got really good height inside. So you get great internal space, get good vertical walls on the inside, and you get really large vestibule either side. So you've got a door. This whole door configuration matches on the other side. So if there's two of you sharing, you're not clambering over each other to get into the tent. Or you could use one side for luggage storage, the other side for access, whatever you want. It just gives you lots of versatility and lots of room. So again, if you're sat here in wet and cold windy conditions, you're well covered. You could configure the doors to suit the conditions as well, and also to help with that ventilation. So on the inner tent, you've got this mesh solid door panel. You've got a double zip puller here, so you can open this all the way round if you wanted to, or you can close it from the top. You can leave it open at the bottom. You can do whatever you want with these two zips. It's great. You can configure the opening exactly how you want it, or you can simply roll the whole thing back and secure it with the toggle and loop on the side here. Or if you're getting bothered by insects, you want to keep the door closed but you want increased ventilation, you can remove the solid fabric and just have the mesh, and again you can just roll that back and secure it, keep it out of the way. So you've got lots of options with the zips, lots of options for ventilation, and then in colder conditions obviously you can have a really solid insulating doorway, keeping all the heat inside the tent. So as I said earlier, the tent's got two entrances, two doorways. Each doorway has the same configuration in terms of zipping and opening options. So obviously the first option is fully closed for full protection against the elements. You've got these large zip pullers here, runs nice and free, and that gives you fully closed. Second option you've got, I know you can't see me at the moment, I'm inside, but the second option you've got is to half open the door. So down the bottom of the zip there's this little toggle, and inside there's a little D-ring. So if you lift the toggle up to the D-ring and then just tension the door like so, hello, you've got a half open door, which gives you some protection from the elements but still gives you loads of ventilation. Or if you're in really hot conditions, this is a great option to have the mesh on the inner tent and have this open like this to give you maximum ventilation. The other option you've got for increasing ventilation is you've got a little zip puller on the inside here. Undo that, you can open the top of the door down just to give you another little airflow through the tent, an opening option. And obviously that will open all the way down if you need to, but it just gives you flexibility to increase ventilation while still protecting the vestibule area of the tent. And then obviously if the weather is really, really nice and you just want to sit and enjoy the view and move the door right out the way, you can simply roll it up and pin it all the way back. So you've got a little webbing and buckle on the inside there, and that just gives you maximum ventilation. You can sit and enjoy the view and have a cup of tea. So storage wise inside the tent you've got plenty of mesh pockets all the way around the inside of the inner tent where you can stash things like your phone, your head torch, your alarm clock, whatever you want to do, keep it in there. And then up inside the roof, you've got a little suspended gear loft. Again, handy place to keep a head torch or a little lantern. You're going to light up the inside of the tent. And that's removable, so if you don't want it, you can simply take it out. Saves, what, a couple of grams, but you know, hey, if you don't want it, you can take it out if you want to. So plenty of storage, plenty of usable space, just a really comfy place to be. So even the humble stuff bag or pack sack for this tent is a quality piece of kit. You've got full compression straps on there, and you've got a large valance on the top here with, what do you get on here? You get pitching of the tent instructions, you get a little bit of information about Fjällräven's tent revolution, and you also get a handling and care information on here. So there's absolutely no excuse for pitching this wrong or not knowing how to look after it. The sack itself is designed to take the fabric and the pegs only. The poles have their own separate bag, and they attach via a little clip on the top here and just go underneath the compression straps. Or my advice would be to carry the poles separately in your pack, which means you can compress the fabric smaller for a better pack size. Also inside the stuff sack there's this little pocket sewn in, open up on the Velcro, and there's a comprehensive repair kit in here. Let me just drop that down, I can show you. So you get needle and thread there, you get self-adhesive bits of fabric, spare fabrics, bits of mesh, so you can sew the tent up, stick a patch on when you're out in the field, an emergency repair. You also get a tube of seam seal. Now it's a point here actually, this tent doesn't have seamed seals, this tent doesn't have sealed seams. The thread that's actually used in the seams swells when it's wet and will block up any holes, but if you want to do belt and braces, you can seal them up if you want to. You get a spare guy line, and you also get a pole sleeve, so if you accidentally break a pole or one snaps, you can slide this over the break, use a bit of tape, hold it in place, and that will give you an emergency pole repair. Okay, so the pole bag will attach a little clip there on the outside, but the best place really to store that is separately in your rucksack. And also in here with the other poles, you will find a spare pole section, just again reinforcing the kind of the thought and quality that goes into Fjällräven tents. They supply you with everything you need. Okay, just give you some idea of the internal space in here. If you're familiar with my videos, you'll know that I am 6'3", so I've got stacks of room in here, and I've got two good regular sized air mattresses in here as well. There's even room for some extra kit if needs be. I can fully stretch out in here. It's really comfy, nice and spacious. Don't feel claustrophobic with the walls sort of hanging down over your face at all. There's good vertical, side walls, good height to the inner tent. And then if I wanted to sit up in the front here, plenty of room, plenty of height here, really comfortable. We would always recommend, pretty much with any tent, that you use a footprint. So a footprint is basically a tough, waterproof piece of fabric that you put underneath the whole tent to protect the ground sheet from sharp objects, from excess moisture, from really wet ground, etc. And it's worth remembering that it's much easier to replace a footprint than it is to repair or even replace a sewn in ground sheet. So we would always recommend you use a footprint. Now for the Fjällräven Abisko Dome, this footprint extends right out, as you can see, so it goes underneath the ground sheet here and extends right out into the porch area, and it even has little toggles that correspond with the loops on the inside of the tent, and you can secure it all the way round at the point of contact all the way around the tent to keep it nice and secure and taut so you're not tripping over it or it's flapping around. Okay, so we've set up the Abisko Dome 2 like this. This really shows clearly the footprint, how it is exactly the footprint of the tent. Please remember this is an extra purchase you need to make. We do have offers sometimes on the footprints, but this is an extra purchase. And we've taken the inner tent out So you could use the Abisko Dome 2 like this in good conditions. It's not going to be too stormy. Or if there's a whole load of you could probably get 4 or 5 people in here sleeping quite comfortably in reasonable conditions. Obviously you wouldn't want to use this like this if it was really, really cold or if it was really, really blowy. But summer camping, autumn camping, late spring, that kind of thing. You get a whole load of you in here. And it also gives you the option to reduce the bulk and the pack size of the tent if there's only a couple of you, so you're only carrying the fly and the poles and the footprint. So just one of the versatile pitching options of this great tent. So you can see here we've done with the Fjällräven Abisko, we've stripped it right down to its bare bones. This is another pitching option that you get. You will need one of these little kits to enable you to do this. This is the 2 to 4 person inner tent pitch kit. And that provides you with the little feet for the poles that hook onto the inner tent, and also some extra guy lines if you need to secure this further. But this just gives you a super lightweight bug shelter basically for summer use. You obviously wouldn't want to be using this in horrible conditions, but it does mean that you get that superb versatility from the Abisko Dome 2 tent. So to summarise, the Fjällräven Abisko Dome 2 tent, it is a superbly manufactured and high quality tent for 4-season use that can be stripped down to make it super versatile, from a lightweight bug shelter to a large capacity shelter with a ground sheet to a full double tent with inner and outer for 4-season use. Probably not the lightest tent in the world, but probably one of the strongest, one of the most versatile, and one of the most durable tents you can get. Plenty of storage space, double doors, super usable, super comfortable, just a real high quality tent that's going to provide you with great features and comfort for many years. Okay, thanks very much for watching. If you like our content and want to be kept up to date with all our videos, please hit the subscribe button below. If you want to add any comments or questions, please pop them in. It's always good to hear from you. And Harry will put up some links here as well through to the products on our website so you can fill out on all the geeky details. Thanks for watching. Toodaloo.